What's up? I'm B, and whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to the podcast, I hope you are having an amazing day. Today, we're going to be reacting to someone who I have never reacted to on my channel before, and that is Miss Hannah Pearl Davis, or as you may know her, just Pearly Things. She's a character. She's somebody who's been on my radar for quite a while. The first thing that I ever saw about her was a video that she had put out about going to a wife school and learning how to be a good wife and how to attract a husband. And I watched probably like 30 minutes of that episode, and I was like, oh, okay, this might be somebody that we could talk about on the channel. This is an interesting concept of someone learning how to be what a man that she would want to marry wants, instead of just like being herself. You know, she's like, I'm going to learn how to attract a certain kind of man, right? So I saw that, and then I kept keeping an eye on her and like looking into her. And the reason I kind of held off on reacting to her is because she's not in the self-help space or the personal development space, and she's not in the religious space either. She espouses a lot of like evangelical talking points, but I never got the feeling that she was overtly religious. It was more so that she was coming at it from a political angle, like being red-pilled and promoting being a trad wife from the political side of things, not necessarily because she's like believing that this is how things should be because of a religion that she's following, right? So I was like, I don't know if people who watch my channel are gonna like care about a reaction to her. Let's just hold off for now. A few weeks ago, I was talking on here about how several of you had recommended this older Melena Cicciati video to me, and you wanted to know what my thoughts were on it. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do a reaction to that video. But also, if there are any other videos or podcast episodes that you want me to react to, let me know. I want to hear your suggestions, even if they're a little bit older or they're from people who I don't typically cover on my channel. I just want to know what you want to see, and we're going to start like folding them in between more current episodes. And so this video comes at the suggestion of feminist cat lady spinster. It is from Pearl, and it says, my thoughts on religion bar why I believe in God. Kit, thank you for the suggestion. I'm excited to get into it. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit apprehensive because sometimes Pearl says things that are just so wildly out of pocket that I'm like, you can't have a reasonable, rational conversation with someone who says those kinds of things, but I'm here for it. Let's talk about Pearl. Before we get into the reaction, I do just want to give some quick information about Pearl. That way you've got a baseline level of information regarding who we're dealing with here. Hannah Pearl Davis is a 27-year-old who grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and when I first made these notes, she had 359,000 followers on Instagram. Since then, that Instagram has been banned, but she did make a new one in March, and she has about 5,000 followers on that new Instagram. On YouTube, she has 1.98 million subscribers. Lots of influence here. On Twitter, she has 428,000 followers, and her channel Wife School with Pearl has 17.7 thousand followers, which interestingly enough has lost 300-ish followers because it was at 18,000 when I first made these notes. And this is the description on her YouTube channel. It says, Pearl is one of the fastest growing YouTubers and cultural commentators in the world. Pearl hosts The Pregame, a dating and relationships debate show, Pearl Daily, a daily news and commentary show, and The Sit Down Show, a long-form interview podcast. She puts out a lot of content because she puts out these like long, like she said, long form interview podcasts. She puts out these long episodes and then clips and clips and clips and clips and then posts those separately. And so it's like, she just got a ton of content out there. Anyway, the About section goes on to say, Pearl has amassed more than 1,500,000 subscribers and 750 million video views in under 2 years with her hard-hitting, irreverent social commentary. Pearl has collaborated with Andrew Tate, Piers Morgan, Brittany Renner, and many other of the world's most influential celebrities and commentators. To stay up to date with all of Pearl's content, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel and follow Pearl on Twitter and Instagram. And since my original screenshot of this About Me section, she has also added a line at the end that says, everything on this channel is comedy or satire. And I have a feeling that she had to add that because she's dealt with some different demonetization struggles, and so it's like, hey, it's just jokes, it's a comedy, it's a satire, don't take it seriously, please keep paying me. And so that's why she just like added that little disclaimer there. But overall, like, Pearl has a lot to say about marriage. Like she said, she hosts a dating and relationships debate show. She's got a lot to say about those things despite not being married. She talks a lot about how men get the short end of the stick in relationships, and a big problem, like a big contributor to men getting the short end of the stick, is that there aren't very many virgins left in the world. So she's like, there aren't virgins, they're not worthy of marriage, these women are like low class, they don't deserve to be married to good men, and women are incentivized to file for divorce. So these poor guys, they're just at such a disadvantage here. One of her tweets reads, if you're going to get married, you have to be extremely cautious and protect yourself no matter how quote unquote good the woman. A woman is still a woman. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, you're a woman. What are you saying about yourself? And also, again, Pearl is not married. She has a job. She's like created a production company. She is business savvy, clearly based on the amount of influence that she has online. She's a volleyball player. She moved to London to play volleyball. Like, this girl is very independent, but she's getting on the internet talking about how women need to be like submissive, shy, quiet, listen to their husbands, let them lead, despite not living out any of those values. And to be honest, I like the version of Pearl that she is now if she was just espousing different ideals. I'm like, that is so cool. You are so good at a sport that you moved internationally to play it. You are athletic, you are driven, you are savvy, you have like the social media following. That is so cool. Good for you. But I don't know if she would have gotten the social media following if she wasn't spouting the trad wife, red pill ideals that she is. It's so conflicting because she talks about how like women need to be young and virgins and get married and listen to their husbands and like just be, she holds women to this really, really, really high standard, but doesn't have like any standards for men. It's just like women have to do all of these things in order to be good enough for men because men really don't have a lot of good women to choose from. And again, meanwhile, she is not living out like any of these ideals that she says women should. Another tweet of hers says, marriage reform must come before men start families, otherwise it's an unfair deal. Changing the divorce law should be the #1 issue in order to bring back families. It is not fair to men to tell them to risk their life's assets and children in hopes that their wives don't leave them. Men are powerless once they have children with a woman. Pearl, respectfully, you're not married and you don't have kids. Why is this something that you care so much about? And why are you speaking as though you have experience in this field? There's nothing wrong with being unmarried. There's nothing wrong with not having kids. But if you're going to make it your entire personality to talk about what like a good marriage should look like, I don't know, it would make sense if you had some experience in the field. Last set of tweets I'll read because these are just egregious. And these are old. Like, these are from the first time I did these notes. So you can assume like there have been multiple more tweets just like this created in the time since then. But she put on Twitter, I would actually warn men to never date a single mother. With all the risk they already take with marriage and relationships, a single mom is way too risky. Would not touch with a 10-foot pole. Somebody responded and said, why is she considered risky? Honest question. Pearl responds, single mothers have already proven they are irresponsible and do not make good reproductive choices. If she cannot be responsible with her womb, why would she be responsible with your legacy? Pearl, my love, do we understand that it takes two people to make a baby? Like biologically, on a basic level. Can we agree on that? Can we understand that? Okay. One, it's wild to just automatically assume that a single mother is irresponsible with her womb. There are plenty of reasons for people to be single moms. Plenty. And it's really, honestly, not our place to judge why someone may or may not be a single mother. If they love their kids and they're taking care of them, that's what matters. Like, that is the only thing that should be taken into account. Like, why are you being like, oh, you're a single mom, you're engaging in risky behavior? First of all, that's messed up. Second of all, so should women not date single dads? Because I don't see you talking about that either. So if we're going to take that same standard and apply it to the opposite sex, do you consider single dads to be irresponsible, or were they tricked? Were these men tricked by a sneaky woman? Like, what's the thought process there? Now, I don't understand the motivation behind saying something like this other than wanting to appeal to some based alpha males. And my larger question would be, why would you want to appeal to them? Why is that the audience that you want to build? Why do you want an audience filled with people who hate you and don't respect you? I get it. You're making profit. You're getting attention. That's great. But is it worth it? Like, is it worth it to know that the majority of your audience disrespects you and thinks that, like, yeah, we'll use you as a mouthpiece, but none of us actually value you as a human being? I don't like that. Pearl also made merch that says women shouldn't vote. And I'm like, you do not believe that. You do not believe that women shouldn't vote. Because if you believe that women were too dumb to vote and they shouldn't do it, you should also believe that women are too dumb to speak publicly and have social media presences, and you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. Like, you are just doing that for the sake of the controversy. But one more thing, and then we'll do win for the week, and then we'll get into the reaction. In this clip, Pearl says that I'll play the clip for you just because it's so ridiculous. But in the clip, Pearl says there should be mandatory DNA testing at birth to make sure that men aren't raising kids that aren't theirs. And then if there's a divorce, they're not paying child support for kids that aren't theirs. And Michael is like, why would I do that? Like, I don't like that you're calling my wife a whore and me a cuckold. And I'm confident that my wife is not sleeping around, so I wouldn't want to do that. And Pearl's like, oh, well, you can opt out. And so he's like, okay, it's not mandatory then. They have DNA testing that you could do if you want to do it. And she's like, well, I just think it would be better if it was mandatory. And he's like, okay, so it's not voluntary. And she's like, you're not getting it.
Be mandatory DNA testing at birth.
No.
I don't know why you, okay.
Because it's calling my wife a whore to do that. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Why? Okay, so
because
women...
the assumption of the first of all, mandatory, good grief, but the premise of it is that my wife is sleeping around.
Okay, so
I'm quite confident my wife is not sleeping around.
The woman feels icky for a little bit, but then
the man feels icky. I would feel quite icky.
Wait. The woman feels icky for a little bit. Fine, maybe the man feels icky.
Certainly he would. You're calling his wife a whore and him a cuckold.
It prevents men from being put on child support and raising kids that aren't theirs.
You're saying they're
And
married.
if people want to opt out of it, fine, you can opt out.
So it's not mandatory.
But
it's voluntary. But there it is voluntary. Yes.
I think it would be better if it was mandatory. I think that's a better.
So then the men can opt out.
Oh my gosh! What are you?
It is just the most ridiculous clip. It's so frustrating, and like I said, like, Pearl is somebody who is very difficult to argue with because some of the things she says just either are so out of left field that you're like, how do I even begin to try and break this down in a way that makes sense to have a reasonable conversation about? Or it's just something so entirely ridiculous that you're like, if you felt confident saying that thing out loud, I don't know how to have a conversation with you. But anyway, that's some background on Pearl. Welcome to the Pearl Davis side of the internet. let's do win for the week and then we'll do the reaction. If you're new around here, a win for the week is just where you share something good that happened to you over the past week that you would consider a win, big or small, whatever it may be. If it brought you joy, if it made you feel grateful, if it made you happy, if it made you laugh, if you consider it a win, I want to hear about it. If you are watching this on YouTube, you can leave it in the comment section down below. And if you are listening to the podcast on Spotify, you can leave it in the Q&A for this particular episode. My win for the week is that my new chair came in the mail. I was planning on putting it together yesterday after I got back from my hair appointment, but by the time I was done with it and I came home, Rick had put it together and put it in my little filming corner for me. And so it was ready to go. I didn't have to do any of it, and that was very sweet. So that is my win for the week, and I cannot wait to hear yours and celebrate with you.
So today I wanted to talk about my faith.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes I hate talking about my faith because whenever
I thought we were going to get like a hello, welcome to my channel. So I was getting ready to say hello back, but okay, we're going to talk about our faith.
I talk about it, the Bible thumpers come in and just tell me I'm not a real Catholic or I'm not a real Christian. I don't do enough. And if you guys need a religious scholar, please go somewhere else. Please, it's not me. If you want a nun or a saint to look up to, not me. Go somewhere else. But I wanted to give my thoughts on why I think that Christian, maybe Catholic or Christian, I haven't decided yet, is the one true religion. So, this doesn't really come from a super in-depth theological point of view. So, please, if you want to say that this is wrong, that's fine. This is just my point of view. So, when I was 22 or 21, I started looking at the world, and I wanted to figure out what religion I was. And I narrowed it down to Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Catholic. Now, Jewish,
how did you do that? That is a wild statement to make. I narrowed it down to 4 of the world's largest religions, and I figured one of those is probably the true religion that I should follow. Did you have a life experience? Were you taking like a world religions class? What happened? Why were you like Christianity, Catholicism, Judaism, or Islam? It's one of those 4. Let's narrow it down from there. I mean, I guess they would all be considered Abrahamic religions, and so maybe that's the through line that we're working with, but I don't know. Let's hear more from Pearl.
There's a couple reasons I discredited that religion. Again, this is from the point of view of someone that is not a religious scholar. Number 1, I thought that it was unlikely that Jesus would have existed and been as big and influential of a figure as he was, to the point that we're talking about him 1,000 years later, if he was just a crazy man pretending to be God. And there are scriptures of him referring to himself as God, the Son of God. To me, that didn't make sense. So I ruled that out, although there was a slight desire to look at the Jewish religion because I thought I didn't have to believe in the miracles, and I'm naturally a skeptic, but I guess the way I saw it, he was either the Son of God or he wasn't.
Sure.
Then the next religion I was
either he was the Son of God or he wasn't. Yes, naturally. That is how that would work. Okay, so obviously Pearl is talking about like her thought process, and that's her own experience. I can't be like, well, you thought this and that's how you came to this conclusion based on your opinion, but your opinion is wrong because that's her opinion, that's her experience, right? As far as her thought process regarding Jesus and like there wouldn't still be so many people talking about the things that he did if those things weren't true, I guess I just take more of a, like, I believe these things to be true based on my personal convictions and my personal experiences, as opposed to like, well, lots of other people believe in Jesus, so he must have been the Son of God. Like, she's taking an approach of like, well, what do other people say? What are other people looking at, as opposed to like an introspection of, do I believe this thing? Because there are plenty of other wildly influential religious figures who existed thousands of years ago who are still being spoken about today. So for me, it's like, I believe in Jesus because of my own personal experiences, the time that I have spent reading the Bible and other literature, and my own personal convictions, as opposed to like, oh, well, there are a lot of people who talked about Jesus, so Jesus must have been real and he must have been who he said he was because other people are talking about him being that thing.
Looking at was the Muslims. And I have a lot of respect for the Muslim religion. I think they have, I live in a very Muslim area. I think they have a lot of things right. They believe in more of like a patriarchal structure. They don't put up with the BS that Christians seem to put up with, which I like. But
we jumped from Judaism to Islam real quick. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised because this video is 12 minutes long, so she's not going to spend a ton of time, I guess, going into like details of her thought process. But I wish we had a little something more than just like vague terminology.
And I don't know, so please do not come for me. It seems like there's a lack of freedom in that religion. And while I believe in freedom with responsibility, but I think, my dad always told me that you should never control people. Because if you do, they will resent you for it. And my dad was a very hands-off.
Do you believe that? My dad told me you should never control people because they'll resent you for it. But what are you trying to do to women every day? You're trying to control women. You literally just had that debate with Michael Knowles where you said there should be mandatory DNA testing.
Parent, he would show us right from wrong. You get to pick. Now, I can't say for sure. Maybe I'm uneducated. I don't know. It doesn't seem like they have that with the burqas and all that. Like it's. Anyways, they seem to agree with me on the women shouldn't vote thing. They're more based than a lot of Christians. But, and the other thing was, if I was God, I would make a world where the countries that followed me would be prosperous and amazing. And in my heart of heart and my soul of souls, I've lived around the world. I still believe that the United States is the greatest country on earth. Maybe I'm biased because I'm from.
I'm going to take a second to collect myself. Pearl just sat here and said, I don't know a lot about this thing, but let me make a video telling you why I don't believe in it. I mean, if you honestly thought, like, here are 4 religions that I'm exploring, and I believe one of these is true, and I want to find which one I believe in, I believe is the true religion that I should follow. Don't you think you would know a little bit more about each of those things, each of those religions? Like, don't you think you would look into them a little bit more so you're not sitting here being like, I don't know that much about Islam, but here's my opinion on it. Here's the opinion that I am choosing to give you on my channel that no one's forcing me to talk about. Like, that's just like an ignorant choice to make. To be like, I'm going to tell you why I don't believe in Islam, but I don't know that much about it. Like, I'm just going to get on my channel and talk about it. It just seems like you don't have a ton of freedom, and I don't like that you have to wear a burqa, which not even every Muslim person wears a burqa. And from my understanding, like, sometimes it depends on the age you are, how much you cover up when you're in public. But like, you're literally saying, like, you looked into this religion to decide that it wasn't true, and you don't know that much about it. Also, can we say xenophobia? Like, xenophobia, Christian nationalism. What is happening where it's like, if I was God, I would make sure countries that believed in me were prosperous? Well, that goes against what you've said in the past. First of all, I don't believe that. I don't think, like, I don't believe that there's any truth in that theory of, like, God is going to make, quote unquote, nations who believe in him prosperous. I don't believe that. Second of all, you're saying that the United States is full of women who can't be trusted, full of people who aren't actually Christian. So how does that make sense to be like, I don't know, maybe I'm biased, but I think it's the greatest country in the world. Well, you're criticizing like half of its population on a daily basis for being bad people, bad, untrustworthy, irresponsible people who can't make decisions for themselves, who shouldn't be able to vote, who need men to tell them what to do, but are also like sneaky and devious and trying to commit fraud, essentially. It just doesn't make sense. That is a concept, especially coming from someone like Pearl, does not make sense.
The US, but I've lived in Europe for a couple years. I think there's some awesome things about Europe. I've lived in Germany, I've been to India, I've been to the Middle East. And there's things I love about every country I go to. There are things that I love.
Pearl, according to your ideology, you shouldn't be out here traveling to different countries and experiencing the world. You should be at home raising babies. So what are you doing
about it? For example, Germans, on time, hardworking people. I'm German, you know. India, I love. Even India is very dirty, but they took us to like a party there. My dad has a company in India.
What an off the cuff, just out of pocket thing to say. I thought you were talking about the things that you liked. I'm upset.
And we would do like his employees threw a party for us. Not for it was like the 10-year anniversary of my dad's company, but they put us in saris and they did these traditional dances, and I just loved it. It was amazing. So this is nothing against those countries, but it seems like, and I can say this firsthand living in Europe, the countries that are Christian nations, at least when they started, everyone wants to come to. So even without, and I know, and this is the problem with scholars, scholars get so in the weeds and so in depth with all the religious texts, I just get confused. And
this is the problem with scholars. They care too much about knowing what they're talking about. It's just silly. You're in the weeds.
I like to see what makes sense in the world. And I also believe the problem with Christians today and why Christianity is dead, and this is why the trad feminists drive me freaking nuts, because there's a natural order in the world. And I don't care if people think I'm crazy talking about this. Women can never do what men can do. Women, I don't know if we're maybe lesser beings, lesser whatever. I look at the world and things only make sense when it goes God, men, women, children. And the problem you have...
We should start calling her Pearl Gothard. Oh my gosh.
With all these trad cucks, excuse my language, is one, they're very self-righteous. And the Christians today are so self-righteous, very preachy, and very, it's almost like God became a brand for them. And that's why I'm not too big on talking about my faith publicly. Because, you know, I don't know, there are times where praying and talking to God was the only thing that got me out of it.
God became a brand for modern day Christians, but you sold your dignity for attention and money. You commodified hating yourself to be a public figure. Okay.
Like a really, really tough time. And it's almost like something special to me. It's something like sacred, my relationship with God. And I don't like to share it with everybody. I know that's maybe not what the Bible says. I don't know. I'm not a religious scholar, but to me, it feels weird when people are God, God, God. Like, it just almost seems fake to me. And that's the best way I can describe it. And then people in church will always just tell you that they're not religious enough. And the problem is Christianity has fallen. And it's because there's so many simps in church that just cater to what women want. There are these women's groups that are run by women. Now we have female pastors and preachers. And it's tough because
Now, I know Pearl is talking about her own experience, and so I don't want to try and be like, that didn't happen or that's not true, because she's saying from what I've seen, right? But I'll say from what I've seen, I don't necessarily see churches being like, we need to cater to women. That's something that I would consider to be extremely rare. As far as women's groups being led by women, yep, I would hope so. I would very much hope that wise and wonderful, kind, godly women are taking up leadership roles and the ones running those groups, mentoring younger girls or creating community with women of their own age. Like, I would very much hope that you are seeing a lot of women's groups being led by women. Lastly, women pastors. Pearl does not think that women are smart or capable, and apparently does not think that they should be in leadership positions in churches, which does not surprise me. I would like Pearl to explain to me how it makes sense that she spends all of her time proselytizing in a non-religious manner about how women should behave and what they should do, and that's okay, and she's qualified to do that, but why it wouldn't be okay for a woman to be a pastor and to have a role of leadership within a church. I really explain it to me like I'm 5. Why is what you're doing okay, but it wouldn't be okay to have a woman pastor? And the whole premise of this video is that Pearl's not a religious expert, right? So I don't know that she would come at me with some of the verses that more conservative evangelicals use about not having women in leadership roles in churches, because there's like the one verse where it's like women should be quiet in church. That was a very specific instruction for a specific church based on issues they were having at that time. That was not a commandment from God. So I don't even know that she would give that argument, but like if she did, okay, well, let's look a little bit deeper into that argument then. But like just from a non-biblical perspective, why would it not be okay for a woman to be a pastor?
Think if the Catholics were the Church of God, guided by God, which they say, it seems like they would be able to rise above some of the problems in modern day, and it doesn't seem like they're doing that.
Like what?
I just have to be honest. And then I found out they changed a bunch of stuff in the 70s, let females be altar servers, all this stuff. I question if we're supposed to worship Mary. I don't know. I'm not a scholar. So please, if you want to say you're not religious enough to talk about this, it's fine. I don't care. So, I go back and forth. I still go to Catholic Mass if I go. But I actually came to the conclusion, and this is a weird way to think, I think men are living representatives of God on earth.
Before she gets into whatever that mess is about to be, when I ask Pearl, like what, it's not because I'm ignorant of issues within the Catholic Church, but every church has scandals, every organized religion has issues. But again, when you're saying like, I looked into these religions and here's why I don't believe that each one of these is the true religion that people should follow, and you say, like, because of the issues that they haven't been able to rise above, you got to tell me more. Like, you don't have to, because clearly she didn't. I would love for you to go into more specific detail. Also, it's my understanding that Catholics don't worship Mary. They don't put Mary on like the same level as God. She is just somebody who is a highly respected and venerated figure in their religion.
Because men, when they get together, even if they don't have women, I saw Jason Whitlock's video where he's realizing women shouldn't vote. And he was saying that men need women in order to, like, live good lives or whatever. I think that God is naturally in men, and I think the devil is naturally in women. Now, I know this sounds crazy, but all the evil in the world seems to come from women, men from single mother homes, or men that defer to the authority of women. Where all the uniquely great, inspiring things that I've seen seem to come from men. Now, it's not to say there can't be good women. You know, when you meet like a pure...
That is not a biblical perspective at all. That God is in men and Satan is in women. That's just not like a logical conclusion to come to as a Christian, which is what I'm assuming she's gonna say that she ended up as. Like, she's saying, like, well, I didn't go with Judaism, I didn't go with Islam. If I go to Mass, I go to Catholic Mass, but like, you know, Catholicism has its issues. So I'm assuming she's gonna say, like, I landed on being a Christian. The Bible, which is the book that Christians believe, that is our holy text, says that the Holy Spirit, which is a gift from God, resides in all of us. It's not like, well, I'm gonna send an advocate for you, the Holy Spirit, but it's only gonna be in men. Women, I'm real sorry about it, but I don't know, like, I lost a bet to Satan, and so he gets to inhabit your bodies now. Like, what? Pearl, this makes me so sad, because, like, part of me thinks that she just says stuff for attention and, like, male validation, and she doesn't actually believe it, but I just cannot imagine taking a bit this far without at least having some kind of internal self-esteem issue, to where you're okay being like, I think women are evil and incapable of raising good human beings if they don't have a husband.
innocent woman. There's something special about it. But those are few and far between. They're pretty rare. And generally, they are the way they are because they have a really strong husband or a really strong father in their life. So it seems like to me that men are living, my dishwasher's done, that men are living representatives of God on earth. And women will become evil if we do not defer to the authority of the men in our lives, whether it's a father, whether it's a husband. And that's my thoughts on religion. I think, there's a natural order in the world. I think Christianity is the one true religion. I believe in God. And maybe Catholicism.
Does she understand that, like, so much violence is committed against women at the hands of men? And I'm not trying to demonize men here. I think most of us can have a reasonable conversation where we understand and we know that there are men in our lives who we love and respect, while also being like, but that doesn't mean that there's not a problem. It doesn't mean that men aren't committing acts against women on a daily basis and at an alarmingly high rate. Like, it's like thinking about the man versus bear thing that's going around TikTok or Twitter right now. It's like, if you're a woman, would you rather be alone in the forest with a man or with a bear? And people are picking the bear. I would pick the bear. Like, people are picking the bear for a reason. And so it's kind of ridiculous to be like, well, I think that men have God in them and women don't. And in order for things to work out the way that they should, you really need to defer to men and you need to let them lead you because we know that they're just the better sex. That's so dangerous. That's such a dangerous idea to put in people's head, especially if people are like looking up to Pearl. If there are like young girls who are taking Pearl's advice and thinking that she's so smart and they want to take all of her ideas and internalize them and think like, you know what, you're right. I do just need a man to lead me. That's where we get into some dangerous situations here.
I don't know. And the reason I go back and forth is the Christians say everyone should read the Bibles for themselves, but that's led to them getting a billion woke churches. So I don't know about that. But at the same time,
so you're a Christian, but you don't think that people should read the Bible because that's how you end up with woke churches. What do you... I can't even begin to have an argument to that, because what are you saying? You believe in Christianity. The holy text of Christianity is the Bible. But you don't think that people who are Christians should read the Bible to understand what they believe in. They should just go to church and let somebody else tell them what the Bible says. Okay.
Catholics seem to kind of be going down the same route. I question worshiping Mary, but I'm not sure. And I know when I post this video, all the Bible thumpers are gonna be super excited to just tell me which one. But this is just how I think. But I don't know. You know, I believe in God. It really is frustrating when people try to discredit my faith because I'm not a preacher. I don't think that's my job, and that's a private relationship for me. So I don't know. Let me know what you think. Put your thoughts on religion.
You can be a Christian and be very strong in your faith without being a preacher. People aren't discrediting your religious beliefs because you're not a preacher. One, you don't think women should be preachers anyway. And two, you're literally saying that you don't think Christians should read the Bible. So if I had to guess, that would probably be why people are questioning your faith. It's like, so you're proclaiming this religion, but you're not partaking in actually learning about that religion for yourself. You don't care about your religious text because you think reading it is what makes people woke. But if that's your religious text and reading it makes them woke, and you don't like being woke, why would you follow that religion if you think reading the text associated with that religion is a harmful thing to do? Oh, my brain. Oh.
And in the comments, these are just my thoughts. Off the dome, like the video, subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time.
If you're going to make a video talking about why you believe in God, talk to us about why you believe in God. Don't sit here and be like, well, here's my issue with all of these religions. Just say like, here's my beliefs and here's what I think. And that's why I'm sharing this. Like, I don't understand the point of that video. What was she accomplishing with that? I've got nothing else to say. That entire video felt like a mind game, and now my brain hurts. Thank you again to Feminist Cat Lady Spinster for recommending that I do a reaction to this video. I hope that it was interesting both to you and to everyone else who watched or listened. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. I mean, just tell me everything. Tell me all of your thoughts, because I gotta hear them. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave them in the comment section down below. And if you are listening to the podcast on Spotify, you can leave it in the Q&A for this particular episode. And while you're doing that, if you would consider liking this video or subscribing to my channel, or leaving the podcast a rating or a review, that would be incredible. If you've done any of those things already, thank you so much. I am so appreciative of you, and I love being able to just sit here, hang out with you, and talk about whatever. Thank you so much for watching or listening. Please be kind to people, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.